Hi, welcome to another lesson for scales and beyond. Okay, today we're not playing the ukulele, so don't need to bring that out. This is the lecture to get you ready for the E flat major scale and the C minor scale, and in conjunction and recognizing your family of chords. You're going to need two pieces of paper before we start. You're going to need major and minor scales and the family of chords. So it's a 4-page packet. Go ahead and get that. Hopefully you got that stapled together and you're keeping them together so they don't get all lost and mixed up, because we're using them quite a bit in the series of scales and beyond. The other piece of paper you're getting is the grid scale pattern for E flat and C minor. It's very important that it says E flat and C minor, E flat major, C minor. Okay, so that we're on the same page, we're doing the same scale pattern. Okay, so go ahead and get those pieces of paper, pause the tutorial, grab those papers, come on back. Okay, so you got the major minor scales and the family of chords. Turn to page 4, and we are doing the E flat major scale. Okay, so that's where we're at, page 4, right at the top of the page, and make sure you take notes on that page. Also, this here, very important that you take notes on this page, especially down here with this information. Keep in mind that this bottom 2 lines of the C minor scale is not on here, so you're going to eventually have to write that down. We'll go over that in just a second. There's a lot of space down here on the grid paper, so please take advantage of that space and write down your notes. Okay, let's get started. So we're talking about the E flat and C minor scale. Let's start off with the signatures in the treble clef. You got 3 flats for E flat major. We're going to start with E flat major. Well, basically they both have 3 flats, E flat major and C minor. So the flats are B flat, E flat, E flat and A flat. You got 3 flats. And then keep in mind that every time you come to those notes, they gotta be a flat note when you play them. Okay, starting from right here. This is the notes of the scale in letters, and these are the notes of the scale in the treble clef on your musical diagram. Don't look at these two just yet, because they're part of the C minor scale. We're going to look from here first. So they're matching up, starting from this right here, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, and then finally E flat. Keep in mind that the E flat scale is not really used a lot, unless that kind of music, or if that's just what you want to do, meaning like that's the key you want to play in, but it's not used a lot. But the C minor scale is used quite a bit, so that's why we're covering both of them, because you need to know both of them to understand this. Okay, so the C minor scale is over here, and I wrote it kind of small. It goes back down 2 notes, C, D, and then continues on, but basically it goes from C to C. Now, if you look at the bottom of your tutorial, bottom right hand side, there's like a couple of squares, you know, like squares that look like maybe a television screen. Click those squares on. What they do is they enlarge the picture or the presentation, so it makes this entire tutorial bigger, full screen, so that everything's clearer and easier to see. So whenever you're doing the tutorials, keep that in mind. Click on those little squares on the bottom right of your tutorials, those little squares that look like a television screen. It makes it everything full screen so you can see it nice and big. Okay, so what I did was I lined up the notes to correspond with the scale pattern so you could see it easier. E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. And if you're doing a C minor scale, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and finally C. Okay, and like I said, in this presentation and tutorial, the C minor scale is the more popular one to use. Not so much the E flat major scale, but the C minor scale. Okay, so the family of chords we're talking about in the key of today is E flat major, C minor. E flat major, C minor. We're talking about 2 keys, E flat major, C minor. Okay. Next, we're talking about the family of chords right here. Let's go over them. E flat, F minor, G minor, A flat, B flat 7, C minor, D diminished, and then finally E flat. Keep in mind that it follows a Roman numeral system of order. So you can see that it moves in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Also, we talked about this, it should be reviewed, but just to remind you, the big Roman numeral is major. It's a major chord. Small Roman numeral is a minor chord. With the exception of these two right here, see how it's small, small, but the little circles signifies that they're diminished chords. Okay, so we've mentioned this before. Hopefully you're starting to realize this, but you need to recognize, you need to know where your 1, 4, and 5 chords are when you start utilizing your scale. Your 1, your 4, and your 5, or 5, 7. You need to know that. You need to know where they are, what's their name in the key that you're playing in. Like in this key, it's E flat, A flat, and B flat 7. You need to know that as the bare minimum. It'd be great if you knew all the chords, but you know, that's asking a lot at this stage. But the bare minimum, you should know where your 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 7 are located. So to find your relative minor for any major key, here's the major key. To find your relative minor, and keep in mind, like I said in earlier lessons, the major and the minor, these are related. This is the relative minor. Just think of a family. Just think of like brothers and sisters. You know, they gotta live together. They gotta, you know, you can't separate them. They work together, and they're just part of the same family. So think of them that way. These two just go together. Now, in order to find your relative minor for any major key, so in order to find the minor key, you have two ways to find it. Count the 6th note in the scale, number 6 note in the scale. So if we're in E flat, cover this here so you can see it better. E flat, we're going to start with E flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's your C. Turns into your relative minor, C minor, C minor. That's how you find your relative minor if you're in the major key. The other way is to find your 6th chord, number 6 chord in the family of chords. So here's the family of chords for E flat major. Count 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. C minor, that's your relative minor. That's how you find your relative minor. Now, what's great about this is that everything's in flats. So when you get a moment, check out your chord chart, make sure that you're familiar with these chords. And what's great is that they're already in your chord chart exactly the way you see it. You don't have to transcribe or translate the chord. Like in the previous lessons, you know, we had some sharps and we had to translate that into flats to find your chord. You don't have to do that with this. These chords are exactly as you see them. You look up in A flat, you'll find it. Look up at B flat 7, you'll find it, etc. And then now, make sure, like I said, that you're familiar with the chords at this point. Okay? You don't have to be able to make them perfectly or even be proficient at it, but you gotta at least know what they look like. Okay? And then maybe when you got some time, you can practice them and try to get them, be able to play them at least a little bit. Okay, so we're moving on to the relative minor, which is C minor. And once again, like I said earlier, the E flat scale is not used a whole lot. It is used in some pieces of music, but you know, it's not used a whole lot. But the C minor key, the key of C minor, that is used fairly much, fairly a lot. So that's why we're covering these two keys, is because of the C minor scale. Okay, so the C family of chords for C starts with the one chord. That's a little chord, C minor, minor chord. Next is the two chord, and it's a diminished chord. Next is the 3. That's a major chord because it's a big Roman numeral. Next is a small 4, so that's a minor 4. And now we get two choices. We got either a 5/7 or a minor 5. So in music, when you come to the 5, especially for your minor keys, we're in a minor key, C minor, you have a choice between using G7 or 5/7 and a G minor or a minor 5. Like I said in the very early tutorials, I want you to just kind of think of it as most of the time you're going to be using the 5/7 or the G7 in C minor. But once in a while, once in a great while, you may be using the G minor or the minor 5. So just be aware that it does happen once in a while. Next we get the A flat major. That's the major chord, 6th position, 6th chord. You can tell by the large Roman numeral. Next, large Roman numeral, 7th chord, B flat major, and then finally these C minor. I hope that you're able to spot the associations of the letters. We're talking about letters now, just letters, not chords, just letters. The association of the scale, E, well, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, and E flat. And then you look at the chords, it's the same thing. E flat, E flat, E flat. F, 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 G, 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 just the letters. A, B flat, B flat, B flat. So you can kind of see that. So the chord, not the chord, the scale corresponds to the chords. And that's what you want to really make that association with, so you can better utilize your scales, especially your major scales, when we start moving on to the upcoming tutorials that's coming up next. Now, the C minor scale, it basically follows the same concept if you want to look at it that way. We're just dropping down 2 notes, okay? And that's where you start your C, C, D, D, E flat, F, F, G, G. Just following the same concept of what I just talked about for the minor key. Now for review, we've got to remember that the name of the chord stays the same. So I'm going to talk about C minor, key of C minor. Okay, so the 1 chord, the minor 1 is a C minor. You notice over here it's a minor 6. It's still a minor. Keep that in the same name, bring it over here. The chord that comes after it is a D diminished. Over here is a 7, but over here it falls in the 2nd position, so it's a 2 diminished. Falling in the 3rd position is an E flat. E flat, you notice that's a big number, so that's a major chord, big number, major chord. Next, F minor falls in the 2 chord. Got to keep the same name, minor, F minor. Bring it over here, F minor falls in the 4th position. Over here we got the 5/7, minor 5. You choose which way you want to use it, but keep in mind that 5/7 is used more often than not. And then next we got the A flat, which is a major chord, A flat, major chord, big Roman numeral. Remember, big Roman numeral means major chord. B flat, 7th chord. If you look over here, it's a 5/7, but we want you to pay attention to that big 5 right there, okay? So that big 5 symbolizes it's a major chord. That's why that 7th chord is a major chord for this chord, okay? I hope that you're starting to see some relationships with how the notes match up to each other. For instance, the E flat and E flat, you know, with the scale and the chord, it kind of moves together. And then for the C minor, which is the take home from this lesson, starts over here, C and C, D and D, E flat and E flat, how it kind of matches up. The scale C minor scale, and then the C minor family of chords. That's really important. Okay, so once again, you want to recognize the locations of your 1, 4, and 5s. So in the major key, 1, 4, and 5, know where they are and who they are. In other words, 1 is E flat major, 4 is A flat major, 5, 7, B flat 7. And in C minor, your 1 minor is a C minor, your 4 minor is F minor, and then your 5, 7, it's either G7 or G minor. Once again, you're probably going to use more of the 5, 7 when you're using it. So, very important. The reason why you're getting to know this is because when you're using your scales, you want to know what you're using your scales for and how to use your scales, and this is what the information that you need to know in order to use your scales correctly. Because in general, when you're playing, you know, notes, melodic lead lines in a song, no one really plays scales in a song. Scales is primarily for location and association on the fretboard on where your notes are. And then your lead lines that you play, they're more elaborate and creative based on scales. It's very important that you know your scales first before you play more melodic lead lines on the ukulele. Now, if you have experience in music theory, this should be no problem. If you completed our courses, this should be no problem as well. If it is maybe a little if you're a little rusty, just review your course lessons in the courses so you can start piecing this together. If need be, please go to our website, buenoukulelelessons.com, and check out the courses that you need to take if necessary. It's more than recommended that we ask you to finish your courses before getting to this point, or do the courses in conjunction with this course so you just can grasp a better understanding on the utilization of chords. Once again, if you need to go to the website, www.buenoukulelelessons.com, read the information and try to best determine on which course is right for you. If you have questions at the website, you can go to the Contact Us tab and contact us with questions, and we'll get you going. Or if you're already enrolled in the course, just contact us via the email address in the course syllabus. Okay, most important, you need to watch this tutorial several times. Take a lot of notes on this this page right here, especially down here where there's a lot of space, and watch this tutorial multiple times so that you get a clear understanding for the concepts that we're trying to teach you. Because in the upcoming tutorials, as we move on to the scale patterns, it's going to be really helpful to understand this. And then more importantly, if you go on to the more elaborate scales like the pentatonics, the blues scales that you can use in all types of music, it really helps to understand this concept when you're playing. Okay, that being said, listen to it several times. Please take a lot of notes to help you understand it a lot more clearer. Watch it as many times as you need to. And I know that you know, with the sharps and flats, it does get a little overwhelming or confusing, but don't let those sharps and flats in the signature confuse you. Just keep in mind the concept of how it works, and then look for all the similarities and patterns. If your music theory isn't strong, look for similarities, patterns, and associations to help you progress along through the course. Okay, so once you're ready and you're comfortable understanding the lesson and you're ready to move on, we'll see you for the next lesson.